Welcome to our deep dive into brainstorming. You know how it is when you need a fresh idea, whether it's for work or even just figuring out what's for dinner. We're going to trace how brainstorming has evolved from those classic whiteboard sessions to the seriously cool innovations that are changing how we come up with ideas today. By the end of this, you'll have a handle on different techniques, what works and what doesn't, and how technology is shaking things up.
It is fascinating how brainstorming has gone from sticky notes and markers to this incredible mix of human creativity and powerful tech. It's opened up a whole new world.
So let's start with the OG brainstorming method, the one Alex Osborne made famous back in the 1940s. Picture this. Your first job, a conference room, and a whiteboard plastered with sticky notes. Remember those? The whole idea was quantity over quality, everyone throwing out ideas and bouncing them off each other.
That approach was brilliant in its simplicity. It really encouraged people to just let loose and build on each other's thoughts.
But let's be honest, sometimes those sessions could get a little chaotic, right? The loudest person might take over, or a brilliant idea could get lost in the shuffle. And don't even get me started on trying to decipher someone's handwriting weeks later.
You're hitting on a key point there. Those limitations were actually the driving force behind developing more structured approaches. And that's where Scamper comes in. It stands for substitute, combine, adapt, modify, put to other uses, eliminate, and rearrange. That's like a checklist for systematically analyzing a problem or an idea.
So how would Scamper work in real life? Let's say you're trying to come up with a marketing campaign for a new product. Using Substitute, you might ask. What if we target a completely different audience than we originally planned? Or using Combine, you might think. Can we merge this product's features with another one to create a special bundle? Scamper really pushes you to think outside the box.
Exactly. Each element of Scamper prompts you to approach things from a new angle and consider a wider range of options. It can be incredibly helpful for breaking free from those ruts. You know, the ones we all get stuck in sometimes.
Now, what about those of us who prefer a quieter, more introspective approach? That's where brainwriting comes in. Developed by Charles Osborne in the 1950s. This method lets everyone brainstorm solo before sharing their ideas with the group.
Brainwriting can be a game changer, especially in situations where you're dealing with groupthink. You know, when everyone just agrees with the most dominant person in the room. With brainwriting, everyone gets to contribute their ideas anonymously, which levels the playing field and encourages more diverse thinking.
That makes so much sense. It lets those quieter voices be heard. But I guess it could also have its downsides, right? Like you might miss out on the dynamic back and forth of a traditional brainstorm, and some people might feel isolated working alone.
You're absolutely right. There are trade-offs with every approach. Brainwriting can sometimes lack that spark of spontaneous collaboration and refinement that you get when you're bouncing ideas off each other in real time.
So we've seen how those early brainstorming methods had their strengths and weaknesses. But now things get really interesting because technology enters the picture and completely changes the game.
It's almost like those early methods were waiting for technology to catch up and solve their limitations. Suddenly, things like lost sticky notes, limited whiteboard space, and people being in different locations weren't problems anymore.
Right. Imagine this. Teams scattered across the globe brainstorming together in real time on a shared digital whiteboard. That's the power of virtual collaboration platforms. Tools like IdeaScale Whiteboard let you do just that. You can brainstorm live, use custom templates, and even link it to your project management system. It's brainstorming on a whole new level.
What I find fascinating is how these tools are blurring the lines between brainstorming and project management. You're not just coming up with ideas, you're starting to organize and act on them right there in the same space. It's incredibly efficient.
So we've gone from sticky notes on a whiteboard to digital platforms that connect teams across continents. But the innovation doesn't stop there, does it?
Not even close. We're now seeing a wave of even more advanced trends shaping the future of brainstorming. Things that would have sounded like science fiction just a few years ago.
Okay, you've got to tell me more. What are we talking about here?
Well, think about this. What if you had an AI partner that could sift through mountains of data, spot trends you might miss, and even suggest new ideas? That's the reality of AI-powered brainstorming tools.
Hold on. AI can brainstorm now. That's mind-blowing. But wait, it gets even crazier, right? I've heard whispers about brainstorming in virtual reality, like teams building and manipulating objects in a shared virtual environment. Is that really a thing?
Absolutely. We're talking about teams designing virtual prototypes, getting feedback, and making changes on the fly, all within a virtual brainstorming session. The potential is incredible. But we should be careful not to get so caught up in the technology that we forget about the human element. Brainstorming is, at its core, a creative and collaborative process.
Right. Speaking of keeping things engaging, what about this gamification thing I keep hearing about? How does that work?
Gamification is all about making brainstorming more interactive and fun. Think about adding challenges, rewards, even leaderboards to boost participation and motivation. It can even turn brainstorming into a team-building activity.
I love that idea. A little healthy competition can definitely spice things up. But with all these amazing advancements, what advice would you give someone who's ready to try out these new brainstorming methods?
First and foremost, define your objectives. What are you hoping to achieve? What problem are you trying to solve? Once you have a clear goal, you can choose the right tools and techniques for the job.
That's a great point. You need to know where you're going before you can figure out how to get there.
It's like having a roadmap for your brainstorming journey. But it's not just about the tools, it's about creating the right environment. You need a culture where people feel comfortable sharing their ideas, even the crazy ones. Remember, sometimes the most groundbreaking innovations come from those out there thoughts.
It's like that saying, the best ideas are often the ones that sound crazy at first. So true. But how can we create that kind of open and supportive environment? What are some practical tips?
Start by setting clear expectations and ground rules for brainstorming sessions. Encourage active listening and constructive feedback. Make it clear that there are no bad ideas and that everyone's contributions are valued. And remember to celebrate. You know those aha moments when a great idea emerges.
I love that. Celebrating those wins can really boost team morale and make people feel more confident sharing their ideas. Now, you mentioned AI-powered brainstorming tools earlier. Can you give us some concrete examples of how those actually work?
Sure. Let's say you work for a company that's developing a new line of athletic wear. An AI-powered brainstorming tool could analyze data from customer reviews, social media trends, and even competitor offerings to identify unmet needs and emerging trends. It might discover, for instance, that there's a growing demand for sustainable and ethically sourced materials. Or it could suggest innovative features based on analysis of user feedback.
That's incredible. So the AI isn't just spitting out random ideas, it's actually making connections and drawing insights from real data. It's like having a research assistant working tirelessly behind the scenes to fuel your brainstorming session.
Exactly. And it's not just about generating ideas, it's about helping us see things from different perspectives and challenge our assumptions. AI can help us overcome our own biases and blind spots, leading to more innovative and impactful solutions.
Okay, now I have to hear more about this whole virtual reality brainstorming thing. I can barely wrap my head around it. What does a VR brainstorming session actually look like?
Imagine this. You put on a VR headset, and suddenly you're in a virtual design studio with your team members, even if they're located all over the world. You can sketch ideas on virtual whiteboards, build prototypes with virtual building blocks, and even walk through virtual mock-ups of products or spaces.
Wow, so it's not just about selling ideas on a screen, you're actually interacting with them in a three-dimensional space. It's like brainstorming has become a video game.
You're catching on. It's a much more immersive and engaging way to brainstorm. You can manipulate objects, experiment with different designs, and get a real feel for how things would work in the real world.
I can see how that would be incredibly powerful, especially for fields like architecture, product design, or even urban planning. It's like taking those abstract ideas out of your head
Yeah.
and bringing them to life.
Exactly. It also allows for a level of collaboration and real-time feedback that's simply not possible with traditional brainstorming methods. You can make changes on the fly, get instant feedback from your team, and iterate designs much more quickly.
So we've got AI as our research assistant, VR as our design studio. Are there any other technological frontiers we should be aware of when it comes to brainstorming?
Definitely. Another trend to watch is the integration of biofeedback technology into brainstorming tools. Imagine a tool that could track your brain waves and heart rate variability to assess your cognitive state and emotional engagement during a brainstorming session. This data could then be used to personalize the brainstorming experience, suggest breaks when needed, or even identify moments of peak creativity.
That sounds straight out of a sci-fi movie. It's like having a brainstorming coach built into the software. But with all this talk of technology, I think it's important to remember that tools are only as good as the people using them. We still need human ingenuity, creativity, and critical thinking to drive the brainstorming process.
You're absolutely right. Technology can amplify and enhance our brainstorming abilities, but it can't replace the human spark, That ignites truly innovative ideas, and that's why it's so crucial to choose the right brainstorming methods and technologies for your specific needs and goals. There's no one-size-fits-all solution.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what are some key takeaways our listeners should keep in mind?
First, remember that brainstorming has come a long way from its humble beginnings. There's a wide range of techniques and tools available, each with its own strengths and weaknesses. Experiment and find what works best for you and your team.
And don't be afraid to embrace technology. AI, VR, and other emerging technologies are opening up incredible possibilities for brainstorming. But always remember that technology is a tool, not a replacement for human creativity and collaboration.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, the most successful brainstorming sessions are the ones that create a safe and supportive environment where people feel empowered to share their ideas, challenge assumptions, and work together to bring those ideas to life.
So true. Now, you mentioned earlier that we need to be mindful of the potential pitfalls of technology. What are some things we should watch out for as we venture into this brave new world of digital brainstorming?
That's a great question, and it's something we'll explore in our detail as we continue our deep dive. Stay tuned, because next, we're going to delve into the potential downsides of these technological advancements and discuss how to navigate them responsibly.
Okay, so we're back and ready to keep exploring brainstorming. It's interesting, we've been talking about all these amazing advancements, but like with anything, I'm sure there are some potential drawbacks too.
You're absolutely right. It's like any powerful tool, there's always a flip side. When it comes to digital brainstorming, one of the biggest concerns is the potential for distraction. With all the bells and whistles of these platforms, it's easy to get sidetracked by notifications, unrelated chats, or even just the sheer volume of information, being thrown at you.
It's like trying to have a productive meeting in a room full of puppies. So much cuteness, but good luck getting anything done. So how do we avoid falling into that trap? How do we stay focused and make sure we're using these tools effectively?
Well, setting clear goals and guidelines is crucial, just like you would for any meeting, right? But with digital brainstorming, it's even more important to be explicit about things like time limits for each activity, designated roles for participants, and rules for staying on topic.
Makes sense. It's like having a referee for your brainstorming session, someone to keep everyone on track and make sure the game is played fairly.
Exactly. And just like a referee, you need to enforce those rules consistently. It's also important to be mindful of the potential for tech glitches. Imagine you're in the middle of a brilliant brainstorming session and suddenly the platform crashes. Ugh, talk about a momentum killer.
Yeah, I can only imagine the collective groan from the team. So how do we mitigate that risk? Do we all need to become tech wizards just to brainstorm effectively?
Not necessarily. It's more about being prepared. Make sure everyone has a stable internet connection. Familiarize yourself with the platform's features beforehand. And always have a backup plan, just in case something goes wrong. Maybe have a whiteboard and markers handy.
That's a great reminder. Sometimes the simplest solutions are the best. But as we've been discussing the potential downsides of these digital brainstorming tools, it's also important to remember that sometimes technology can actually help to address some of the challenges we face in traditional brainstorming.
That's a really important point. For instance, one of the common criticisms of traditional brainstorming is it can be dominated by extroverted personalities. But with digital tools, you can create a more level playing field by giving everyone equal opportunity to contribute their ideas, regardless of their personality type.
So instead of just shouting out ideas, everyone can type them into the platform, giving those quieter voices a chance to shine.
Precisely. And digital tools can also help to address issues of bias and groupthink. That can sometimes plague traditional brainstorming sessions by allowing for anonymous contributions and providing tools for organizing and evaluating ideas objectively. These platforms can help to ensure that all ideas are given fair consideration, regardless of who came up with them.
It's like having a built-in system for checks and balances, making sure that the best ideas rise to the top, regardless of who presented them or how loudly they did so. So as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of brainstorming, I'm curious, where do you see things heading? What are your thoughts on the future of this process?
I think we're just scratching the surface of what's possible. I envision a future where brainstorming is seamlessly integrated into our daily workflows, where we can access powerful tools and collaborate with colleagues from anywhere at a moment's notice. And I believe that AI and machine learning will play an increasingly important role, helping us to analyze data, identify patterns, and generate ideas in ways we can't even imagine yet.
It's like brainstorming will become less of a scheduled event and more of an ongoing dynamic process, constantly fueled by new information and insights. That's pretty exciting.
It is. But as with any technological advancement, it's important that we use these tools responsibly and ethically. We need to be mindful of the potential impact on privacy, security, and the overall well-being of individuals and teams.
It's a reminder that as we embrace these powerful tools, we also need to cultivate wisdom and discernment to ensure that we're using them for good. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've explored the evolution of brainstorming, from those classic whiteboard sessions to the cutting-edge world of AI and virtual reality. We've discussed the pros and cons of various techniques and tools, and we've even pondered the future of brainstorming.
It's certainly been a fascinating journey through the world of ideas.
Indeed, and we've learned that brainstorming is not just about generating ideas, it's about creating a culture of collaboration, innovation, and critical thinking. It's about embracing new tools and techniques, but always remembering that the human element is at the heart of it all.
Well said. I hope our listeners feel inspired to go out and explore these new possibilities, to experiment,
Yeah.
to collaborate, and to keep those creative sparks flying.
And who knows, maybe the next great breakthrough is just a brainstorming session away. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time, keep those ideas flowing.